Okay, now it's time for a review of 1301. We're not doing this because I think you guys are dumb and didn't learn anything from the first time around, but because it may have been a while since you took the class, or maybe you had a bad teacher. Whatever the reason, we're going to quickly review some of the things that you should remember from 1301 because you will be expected to know a lot of this material for this course. Be sure to take notes as we go because there will be a quiz over this stuff at the end. Not only will we have this review, we will also be delving a little deeper into some of these concepts throughout the course that you may have only briefly touched on in 1301. From my experience, and for whatever reason, students don't always seem to come into this class with the knowledge and familiarity that they need from 1301, such as proper grammar, spelling, and punctuation, the writing process, how to respond to a prompt, how to write a thesis, and how to organize your paper. As far as grammar, spelling, and punctuation goes, I will be deducting points for errors like these because in the real world, it is really important to know how to write well and with minimal mistakes. I don't mean to be harsh, but the real world is harsh, especially in this primarily English-speaking country. What do I mean by the real world? This phrase usually refers to the business world, the working world, or however you make your money, although your writing may still be judged by others outside of the workplace as well. Anyway, the point is, your coworkers, your bosses, your clients, and other people that you encounter in everyday life are going to judge your writing. And just like a poorly written resume can prevent you from getting the job you want, a poorly written proposal might get turned down, you could miss out on a promotion because of an email with a ton of errors, or other people may deem you illiterate and unintelligent. On top of this, your paper grade could suffer. Any essay that I read that hasn't been proofread automatically stands out to me and makes me think that this student probably didn't spend much time on this. And I guarantee you that your other professors are thinking the same thing. So yes, I will be taking grammar and spelling into consideration for all written assignments, not because I'm a meanie, but because the real world is a meanie. Next up is the writing process. You should remember from 1301 that the writing process consists of 5 stages: pre-writing, outlining, drafting, revising, and editing. Pre-writing, sometimes referred to as invention or brainstorming, is the first step of the writing process. There are several methods of pre-writing available, such as making lists. You can make lists of things you already know or want to know about your topic. Similarly, you can make a list of questions that you might have about your topic. Free writing is basically sitting down with either a pen and paper or a word processing program for a specific amount of time, say 10 or 15 minutes, and writing anything and everything that comes to mind about your topic without stopping to think. Another option is journaling, where you keep track of your thoughts by writing out a more personal response to a topic. And finally, clustering is great for people who learn better visually. Usually done freehand rather than with a computer, clustering consists of using bubbles or boxes to connect different thoughts about a topic. After pre-writing comes outlining. To prepare an outline, you'll first need to determine the purpose of your essay, whether it be to persuade, inform, entertain, or explain. Once you decide what your purpose is, you can determine the form or mode that you'll be writing in. You should remember several of these from 1301 that coincide with the different purposes. Now that you know your purpose and your form, you can create an outline of your essay to help you organize what you want to say into manageable paragraphs. The next step in the writing process is drafting, aka writing the damn thing. Here you'll use your outline as a guide to write your first draft. Be sure to know the difference between the last 2 steps of the writing process. Revising an essay means re-examining its structure, effectiveness, and clarity. At this point, you might be doing a lot of cutting and pasting, adding and deleting in order to make your essay as clear as possible. Editing, on the other hand, consists of improving the quality of the textual mechanics of a written work, such as checking your spelling, grammar, and punctuation. A couple of tips for writing essays. I suggest thinking of these stages as almost a hierarchy of goals to accomplish separately and in different intervals. This way you can complete the paper in smaller bits and aren't stuck doing it all at once before it's due. And also, don't procrastinate. Put a paper off until the last minute and you'll find yourself unprepared, writing quickly and poorly. And if you make the same mistakes as I did in college, you'll make yourself miserable by staying up all night to finish a paper by the deadline. I had a friend in grad school who would always choose that option. She would stay up all night drinking coffee and typing and crying. While that might work for some people, please take my advice and don't do it. At least not until you have a little more writing experience under your belt. Next up is how to respond to a prompt. This info should help you with your other classes, major tests such as the GRE, and all kinds of potential work assignments that you might get in the real world. You'd be surprised how many students have turned in a whole page of writing that goes on and on about the topic, but that does not actually answer the question in the prompt. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is read the prompt carefully a couple of times. Try to restate the question in your own words to make sure that you fully understand what it is that it's asking you to do. Also keep an eye out for command verbs or phrases. These should give you some indication as to how you should respond, while nouns and noun phrases will tell you what you should be writing about. So let's take a look at an example prompt. This one says, compare Judith Sargent Murray's essay on the equality of the sexes with Lydia Maria Child's women's rights. Discuss how these writings demonstrate a push toward equality for women. Cite several examples from the text to support your claim. Looking at this example, the verbs tell you how to write, while the nouns and noun phrases tell you what to write about. Be sure to complete all three parts of the prompt: compare, discuss, and cite. Next, you'll want to come up with your thesis statement. You should remember from 1301 that a thesis statement is usually a one-sentence statement typically found somewhere in the first paragraph that tells the reader what to expect from your essay. For example, in an argumentative or persuasive paper, a thesis will state your position on a topic that you will attempt to prove in the rest of the paper. The thesis often gives an indication as to how you will organize your paper as well. A good thesis will have four main characteristics. First, it will be clear. The thesis should give the reader no doubt as to what your paper is going to be about. Readers will be unlikely to take a position on your topic if they are unable to decipher what it is that you are trying to say. Next, a thesis should be debatable. For example, you would not want to make an argument of this sort: pollution is bad for the environment. Not only does this thesis not reveal anything that the reader doesn't already know, it can't be argued against. Everyone already knows that pollution is bad for the environment, so it's not an argument. A good thesis statement offers an argument with opposing sides that you can take a stance on. Let's take a look at this one. At least 25% of the government's budget should be spent on limiting pollution. This one is much better. This is a statement that you can agree with or disagree with. Next up, a thesis should be specific. Your thesis should deal with a specific, narrowed down topic that is capable of being addressed within the allotted length of the essay. However, be sure that your topic is not too specific or you will run out of material to write about. Too broad. Titanic is the best movie. Because it can't be proved, this is really nothing more than an opinion. More specific, Titanic is the best romantic historical drama. Too narrow. Titanic is the best romantic historical drama of 1997 starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Or we could go back to our first example. At least 25% of the government's budget should be spent on limiting pollution. You could go more specific and say, at least 25% of the federal budget should be spent on helping upgrade businesses to clean technologies, researching renewable energy sources, and planting more trees in order to control or eliminate pollution. This thesis is even better because it gives you an idea as to how the essay will be organized by listing 3 ways to reduce pollution. This one would be great for a proposal. And finally, your thesis should be both interesting and significant. Ask yourself whether your subject addresses an issue that your audience will consider worth reading. Readers will lose interest if the subject matter does not capture their attention. Though a reader of 17 magazine might find your opinion on the movie Titanic to be interesting, the average intelligent reader will not. If an audience is not specified in the directions of a writing assignment, or you can't determine the audience by some other means, assume this is who you're writing to. Lastly, you'll need to remember some of the basic organizational skills that you learned in 1301 and even high school. The first thing you'll need is a creative title. Say you're writing a paper on Michel Lotito, a French entertainer famous for consuming indigestible objects, including a bicycle and an entire airplane. For your title, try to pick something that pulls the reader in. Instead of Michel Lotito paper, try something like Metal Munching Man, the story of an entertainment hero. Next, write an introduction that catches the reader's attention, includes a general review of your topic and an explanation as to why that topic is important, and finally your thesis statement. Your body paragraphs should tackle only one topic at a time, connect logically back to your thesis, contain topic sentences, and use transition words. Finally, end your essay with a conclusion that restates your thesis in light of the new evidence that you've shown the reader in your body paragraphs. Also, don't introduce new information in the conclusion. Okay, that's all for your 1301 review. We talked very briefly about proper grammar, spelling, and punctuation, the writing process, how to respond to a prompt, how to write a thesis, and how to organize your paper. Hopefully most of you remember most of this info from 1301, but if not, I strongly suggest asking lots of questions and seeking advice on the whatever board. Also, your writer's handbook goes over a lot of this stuff in more detail, and we'll be revisiting and expanding on several of these concepts throughout the semester.